podcast, if you don't mind me asking. And I said, I don't want to say it. She's like, oh, that's okay. You don't have to. And I was like, and I laughed and I was like, no, that's the name of it. That's literally the name of it. She's like, oh, okay. Yeah. I'm Anae, and you are
Gina.
Gina. Well, welcome. On this podcast, we talk about different traumatic incidences or traumas that we've gone through, and we'll have guests to talk about them with us and how that kind of shaped our life, how we move through it. Sometimes we,
How we met.
oh yeah, how we met. That was definitely something that was a trauma and crazy and cool, and we'll get to that episode someday, hopefully. But we'll start out one that has a lot to do with the current events for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, right?
From just everything going on, the hate, the love, the peace, the not so peace.
Yeah, the anger and all that too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I guess it was my idea to talk about this today, so I guess I'll start by with a lot of stuff that I had on my mind when it comes to riots. Granted, these are nothing like the ones that we've been through before, for sure. Like the 2020 Summer of Love, that was insane. And when I was small, I'll let you do the math on figuring out how old I am. But when I was small, the '92 riots for sure. It was pretty traumatic to see that as a small child, and it kind of cemented my view on riots and on what the difference of a protest is versus a riot for sure. Yeah, would you say?
Yeah,
But
I
I
agree.
mean, yeah.
And I'm just here to just talk about my point of view coming from immigrant parents and where I stand today
Mhm.
and my view and why I stand for my view.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't understand,
Mhm.
it's like we almost can't agree to disagree anymore.
Yeah.
Like I have to believe what they want me to believe,
Mhm.
and I can't. It's like almost like it's like my opinion. They try to shut my opinion down, and so
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I get that. We definitely have differing perspectives and opinions coming from different cultures, but we can discuss them from our views and our different cultures and why we come to some of the same conclusions on things for sure.
and I think what's been great about our friendship is that I've been able to come to you with all my questions. I
Yeah.
mean, I've shared with you all the hate I've gotten,
Hmm.
even from like my closest people to me, and it is hurtful. But at the same time, I'm just like it's more hurtful because coming from my faith point of view,
Hmm.
it's like God is really just showing me like
Yeah.
who's really for him and who's not for him because this has nothing to do with
Mm.
politics to me. It's I'm very kingdom minded and I know like my life hasn't always shown that, but at least I've always been striving towards it.
Yeah.
So I make decisions based on my faith, not based on anything else, but
Hmm. And I see your perspective that way, and I get your perspective. I think that's a wise perspective to have that foundation
mhm,
and bring that into your life. And for me, it's somewhat similar, but I because I come from more like looking at different perspectives and facts, but then I also look at the other elements of it, and I have a little bit of that faith perspective too, but I also think about the other person's faith and why they would come to that conclusion,
right.
and that's how I build upon that, and it's like, oh, I see from that perspective, and that helps
And
me to
I'm
get
all
to the
for hearing people
answer.
out. I'm not against.
Absolutely, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, some of the hate I was getting on my Instagram.
yeah,
I mean, I had this girl just sending me paragraph after paragraph after paragraph of things that I didn't even say. I'm like, girl, I didn't even say any of that.
yeah.
But, I heard her out. well,
Mhm.
read it out. And after she was done, I was like, I didn't say any of that, but I heard you, and
Yeah.
like, I mean, I'm not mad.
Yeah.
Like, if that's how you feel,
Yeah,
I
I get you.
respect. I respect that that's how you feel. Do I have to agree with you? No, but I don't have to. I'm not the type of person that's like loud about it,
Mhm.
especially when I'm not like the most educated person in politics.
Mhm.
But I have been at least trying to educate myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I respect that about you. I respect that you do ask a lot of questions sometimes, but you come with more like, but what about this? What about this? What about this? You want to ask a question about everything, which I think is really important, not just something that intrigues you, which is kind of a good perspective to say, oh, I want to hear your take on this, or I want to hear this person's take on this. Oh, okay. And
Because I
then
think when I
come to a
ask you all these
conclusion.
questions, it's coming from a place where I know
Hmm.
that you're not trying to like convince me of your point of view or like steer me a certain direction. You're like, these are the facts.
This is what happened, and I may have a strong opinion about it, but this is literally what happened. And that's kind of what I like to do. And some people take it as me taking a side, more so because I can come across kind of strong with it. But I don't know if it's just a passion about the knowledge that I've collected,
Hmm.
or if it's just this happened this way, this happened that way, this happened this way, this happened that way, and and I've because I've come to learn about this, that, and the other, and I try and give like, oh well, this person did it this way, and not trying to paint someone as a hero or a complete villain, but more of things happen this way because of X, Y, and Z, and you can come to the conclusion of, oh, this person is either completely in the wrong, or I see why they would come to that conclusion or be in the wrong for sure. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Solid. All right. So I guess I'll start by talking about why I have the perspective of I do about riots. I'm not gonna say my perspective till the end, but so I was really young. I was let's say just before elementary school, but I won't give up my age, but it'll be obvious. So it was April 26, 1992, just like the song says.
Which
Eh,
song?
there's a Sublime song. It's
Oh,
called, and it's about the LA riots. Yeah, and it's April 26,
okay.
1992. Yeah. So the school I was going to had daycare after it, but during this time, none of the kids were allowed to stay at the daycare after school, and we had to immediately go home or be picked up. And the teachers were rushing home during this time because it lasted more than a day. It lasted like, it seemed like a really long time, but I was a small child. I think it was like a week or two. Um, and so, luckily for me, and this is like right in like South LA, right on the edge of South LA. And luckily, my cousins lived pretty close to where my school was, so they were able to pick me up from school. My oldest cousin was a senior in high school, and then the younger cousin was a sophomore. And so they picked me up, and especially my cousin that was a sophomore, she was a bit nervous the whole time, and we're trying to avoid going anywhere near businesses and stuff because we had family friends that lost all their clothes that were at a dry cleaners. It was that bad where people were looting dry cleaning businesses and liquor
Not just the shoe
stores.
stores.
No, not just the shoe stores. They were looting dry cleaning businesses. And so we made it to their place, but my oldest cousin had to mail some college paperwork out. She was like, I have to get this in. I have to meet the deadline, or I'm not going to have housing, or this or that. And my one cousin's just freaking out, like, no, no, be safe. And she's just going down the street to the mailbox, just like, no, be safe. And I was like, so there's a bit of like, trepidation there, but not completely because you're a small kid. You don't really get how dangerous something is. And then my grandmother, the house that my dad grew up in, her house um, was in Compton, is in Compton, and behind that house there was like an alleyway, and then there's a little shopping center, and they had a little market there, a little carniceria. I'm not Hispanic, but I like pronounce it that way. But yeah, there was. And so sometimes when she would be watching us when we were little, she would just like run off, like, I'm about to go get some milk or something, and then just like run off to the
Mhm.
market. And we would just be there by ourselves for like, like 10, 20 minutes or something like that. And it was really convenient because it was the only little market for miles. So some people that don't have a car, some people, that have to take the bus or just need it to just run somewhere and don't want to pack their kids into a car and go, you know, 20, 30 minutes to
Mhm.
go to an actual big supermarket could get something. And we watched that burn to the ground. My dad showed me and my brothers as it burned to the ground. He showed it to us and he said, "This is why we don't do this. And this is what you don't want to do to your community or to your neighborhood." And it stuck with me. And as I grew up, my dad eventually moved back into that house. And it was about 15 years later when they finally made something out of that vacant, hollowed out lot. So it took a long time to rebuild trust and for a business to want to invest in the neighborhood again, to bring jobs, to bring convenience back into that neighborhood. And it didn't last too long. And that was sad again because then what became of that market turned to a CVS, a drugstore, and then it ended up leaving the neighborhood because of theft. And then people question, why are there no supermarkets in these neighborhoods? Why are there no Targets? And it's because a lot of the times, not everyone, but enough people don't respect their community and don't want to build up and then get upset and angry that there's no opportunity there and it takes forever to rebuild that trust. And so that is why I have very little sympathy for people that riot, and to their cause, I have very little sympathy because I understand the effects of what's happening. It's not just that immediate, oh, there's trash on the ground or this looks bad. It's you're hurting the community, and it's going to take a very long time to rebuild that trust for a business to have faith that they'll be able to thrive there and be a blessing onto the community. And so that's why just I get so upset and angry about rioting. I don't care who is causing the riot or anything like that. You as an individual have to take a stance and say, we're not rioting, or whoever's doing it, I don't care what your reasons are for doing it, there's better ways, you know? Like you look at the civil rights movement and you saw people in suits and ties walking down the street peacefully and letting their voices be heard. And it made the other side look like monsters when they put like big giant water hoses up against them or attack them with dogs. It didn't matter if you agreed with the people in suits' opinions or ideologies or anything like that. When you see people coming to the table respectably, and then you see them being met with aggression, it makes their point seem so much more important and so much more respectable than the other side. So it just makes it a huge difference. So that's why I have always been against rioting. And it goes even to the small part of, well, people are being peaceful and they're not throwing rocks but they're blocking the street. That's illegal. You can't block traffic. You're holding people hostage. You're blocking ambulances. You're blocking people from going to work and all that stuff. You can try and explain to your boss that the road was blocked because of these protesters. Are going to be like, well, you should have left earlier. They get hurt by it, you know? So, yeah, make your voice be heard from a sidewalk, please. Hold up a sign, stand in front of a building, yell at that building. Don't throw rocks. Don't hurt a community. I don't care if it's a nice community or a bad community. Don't hurt that community because it'll take a long time for a business to go, yeah, we should definitely come back and rebuild. You know? Yeah.
I have some comebacks because I've tried to explain that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the comebacks I've gotten is like, well, we're tired of getting bullied, so
Mm-hmm.
we're fighting back, or the community can get rebuilt, but not these families that are getting separated.
Mm-hmm.
We can't get them back, or we have to speak up. That's the
Mm-hmm.
only way. And I'm just like, oh.
There's lots of ways to speak up. If you're thinking about speaking up, why didn't you talk to your Congress people and ask them to really push for, in this specific instance, immigration reform? Why don't you write to your senators, yell at them because they're the reason why we don't have immigration reform? If you're upset about people being deported or ICE doing literally their job, then it's like you're arguing at the very last second. It's like you got warning after warning after warning after speech after speech after speech, but now you've chosen to speak up at the last minute and go, "Hey, why is this happening?" When if you truly cared about the issue, you should have been boots on the ground day one, making sure that people that are here illegally have protections, or making sure that they're getting some kind of paperwork in order to prevent them from getting caught up in the system. If that is truly what you care about and the cause you care about, then that's your way to be heard. Or you put a suit and tie on and you say, fine, you want to take these people out? Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to start an advocacy group and we're going to learn the law and we're going to figure out how we can advocate for these people if they go back or if they're sent back, how to get them back. Or we're going to advocate them for them here. We're going to put together our resources and we're going to start these charities and we're going to find ways of how we can work within the confines of the law or how we can change the law. That is a better form of advocacy, not the last minute being angry and throwing a temper tantrum. That will get you nowhere. If you look at a child that comes to you and say they're 10 years old, this is something like my mom used to like force me to do or something, or what I had to figure out how to do. Like if I wanted to see a movie and she didn't think it was quite appropriate, I would have to come up with the best argument of why I could see that movie. It wasn't me throwing a temper tantrum, screaming and crying until she would let me do something. It was, all right, well, here's the points of why I should see it, and here's what I think I could learn from it or gain from it or something like that. And you know what? I'd usually end up being able to do it because I came at it from that perspective versus kicking and screaming. Like it's you. No one wants to give a like someone kicking and screaming something. If a kid comes to you well spoken, asking politely, you're more likely to give them what they're asking for than the kid kicking and screaming. When they're kicking and screaming, you want them to stop. So you might do something like, all right, well, you have to go sit in a corner until you're quiet, or you have to go outside and run
Or they give
around.
in just to.
You might give in, yeah, but that teaches the kid to do it over and over again. If you want to make sure that the kid's not going to be kicking and screaming and doing it constantly, you have to hold the ground. And that's what my parents of my generation and back would do. They wouldn't let you kick and scream and get what you want. You had to yeah, you had to come at it from a different approach. You learned very quickly. You're not going to get your way by doing that.
Yeah, and I guess I come from the other end.
Yeah.
I was very spoiled growing up.
Yeah, they
So
give
when
you.
I would hear no, I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to like, take a no.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
my mom said, I don't remember, but my mom said I would throw myself. And I'm like, oh my God, how embarrassing. But,
Yeah.
I didn't learn all this until I was older. I didn't,
Yeah.
now still working on respecting boundaries. And,
Mhm.
it's okay to say no because I have to say no too.
Yeah.
So even for me, setting boundaries for myself,
Mhm.
something that I'm learning now as an adult.
Mm.
But my dad, coming here, he had that mentality of like, I'm going to give my kids everything I didn't have. But
Mm.
in the process of that, he created little monsters.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not like that anymore,
Mhm.
thank God. But according to my mom, I was.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I said, I don't
Yeah, I kind of get that idea of like giving in and stuff and saying I don't want my kids to have the same kind of
struggles,
childhood and
yeah, that I
struggles I
did.
had. Yeah, a little bit of that from my dad because his dad for sure was a bit stricter with
Hmm.
him and stuff like that from that mentality because they're from the South and stuff. So, but my dad did get a little spoiled. He was the only boy surrounded by girls, so yeah, he was mom's favorite.
Yeah, my brothers. Well,
Hmm.
he was the only boy for a while, and so he was very spoiled.
Yeah, yeah. So I get where you appease, appease, appease. Yeah,
And I
but
mean, I've even given in to my nieces and nephews.
eh, don't
So
do it.
don't
Hold
do
the
it.
line.
Hold the
Don't do
line.
it.
But I try to like educate them
Hmm.
and teach them or have them earn it. And
Yeah.
I have my own little system with them now.
Hmm.
But for the most part, they're spoiled.
Oh no,
Oh
little tyrants. Hopefully they're not out there throwing bricks someday.
no,
uh,
absolutely not.
uh, did you want to speak any more on like
Unlike
the
the
riots?
riots, I mean,
Yeah.
I do think it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people's points of view. Like I said, I've
Mm-hmm.
heard the reasons why you think it's okay in your point of view, but
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's like you're like proving all the stereotypes they say, especially about Mexicans, because I'm an American from Mexican descent parents. So um, I know like that the people that were protesting, trying to have a voice, are not the ones who caused the riots. I
Mm-hmm.
do believe that there was paid people, but it's like you were telling me, they're just part of the like a pond, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the way destroying our communities,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of takes away the point of why we come here for an opportunity. But destroying the community is not the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now you've made it unsafe for people. Now no one wants to go out.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we would have avoided that, but I
Yeah.
mean, it happened with the Black movement, the
Mm-hmm.
Black Lives Matter movement. They did the same thing.
And I don't feel anything really was accomplished, and I think it pointed to an issue that really wasn't there, where people got upset over. There were a few incidences, but it wasn't this massive amount of incidences where you could point to it and say, here's the issue, and if we loot or if we yell about it because we're so upset about it, was really just one issue that they were really, really upset about. I don't think that was solving the issue. And when you look at the statistics too in that situation, more people die of gang violence and stuff like that than at the hands of cops. Doesn't matter the race of the cop versus the perpetrator, like the black versus like a black perpetrator, because black people can die from black cops too, as you saw with the whole like Memphis thing where there was a bunch of black cops that ended up beating a guy up, but it turns out it was a lot of personal beef that was there. Where, we're not addressing the issue of why people think it's a good idea to not comply with law enforcement, because a lot of the times that's what sparks these things. And there have been other instances where you see, like, hey, okay, the person that's being arrested or pursued or ends up dying at the hands of a cop actually wasn't in the middle of a crime. And I have a bit more sympathy in that case than someone that's literally in the commission of a crime. And if he isn't complying with law enforcement, then you've given them a reason. Whether you feel right about what you're doing by resisting arrest, if you know you're in the middle of a crime and you are in the process of resisting arrest, you're giving someone a reason. And I'm not saying it's a right reason. I'm not saying it's justified, but you don't want to put yourself in that situation to give someone a reason, you know? Like, it's like you got to be the one to have a bit more control of the situation and like put a pause on it. That's just kind of what I feel. Like, you don't want to concede and say, well, now they have a reason,
Hmm.
you know? That's the whole thing about this issue too, is you've given them a reason. If you come out and you come out clean and strong and not angry and violent, you are showing that those people don't have a reason, yet they're doing it. Then your voice becomes louder and stronger versus having people having to drum up what looks like a lie, because you can't go on camera and say it's mostly peaceful protests with burning vehicles and people throwing rocks behind you. Now it looks like you're just lying. And it could very well be mostly peaceful, but the backdrop of what you're saying isn't showing that.
Hmm.
And you're giving people more ammo in this situation, which is just not cool. When people want to argue, it's just the small part of LA, yeah, where things are happening, but it's affecting all the surrounding areas. It's affecting all the businesses in the surrounding areas. People don't realize that. People don't realize, people that aren't from LA and haven't seen LA change, like when I was a little kid, no one went downtown for anything. There was no reason unless you were going to City Hall to file some paperwork for this, that, or the other, or taking pretty pictures at the train station, or going to like Alvera Street or Chinatown just for the heck of it. You weren't going to downtown LA or your mama needed some flowers or garments. It was not the place to be back in the day. It was abandoned, it was desolate, and then they had a revitalization program. And back in the early 2000s, my stepfather at the time had a job with the Department of Building and Safety. And he was telling me as I was entering adulthood, you need to, as soon as you get some money, go and get something downtown because the price is about to skyrocket. It's about to be worth it. We're really trying to clean up downtown and bring a lot of business there. We had the Staples Center open. They built up a bunch of businesses, movie theaters all around that area to make it a hub, to make it more, vibrant. And what's happened and what's happening now? People are looting those businesses. People are destroying that. And then what's going to happen? We're going to have to wait another 20 to 30 years for downtown to be this vibrant, booming place again if they continue. Hopefully they can stop and the businesses can still have that confidence that we can have it be this economic hub that it once was, that you can look at your city and go, man, my downtown's gorgeous. We've got
Hmm.
business, it's pretty, people want to be there. You've got restaurants and shops. We were there not too long ago. We went to little Tokyo. It was great. Had a nice meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I go there often to the
Yeah.
flower market. I actually love going to the flower market,
Yeah.
but as someone who goes as often as I do,
Mm,
it's not always safe. There's like homeless everywhere.
yeah.
I mean, my best friend and I can't even go for a walk at the park without having to like look over our backs.
And it's gotten, and that was part of the revitalization, and it just kind of it kind of got there, but it hasn't addressed everything, and they keep building and building downtown, but they're still not completely addressing it. But yeah.
And one more thing I would like to add about the riots with
Yeah.
I saw this well, my best friend told me about it, but I saw a post about it, how there was like Craigslist posts or Facebook posts on paying people like $12,000 to like start these riots and to like burn these cars or be
Mm.
aggressive. I don't know if word for word what they said, and I don't know how true it was or not.
Mm.
But I'm like, if you really want to make a difference, how don't why don't you use that money to actually fund someone's lawyer or
Mm.
fund someone's like immigration process.
Yeah. Which.
Or, like you want to talk so much or
Mhm,
people want to have such an opinion, but it's like, okay, well, how come you don't foster one of these kids while they're in process of getting connected back to their families?
mhm.
Like why, like make it, if you want to make a difference then.
Yeah.
Because,
I get what you're saying.
like even with this weekend, which I know we're going to get to that, but even with that whole movement, like what did it accomplish?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like
Nothing really.
realistically,
Yeah.
what did it accomplish?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you really want to make a difference, like you said, there
Mhm,
is a way. I saw a video of these, like, I don't know if they were Mexican or what background they were, but they were on horses
mhm,
peacefully protesting. I thought that was beautiful. I think it is beautiful that people are going out there and being a voice for those who don't have a voice. I'm not
mhm,
against that, or like, or even like comments I've gone like, you voted for this. I'm like, I didn't vote for this.
mhm,
Like, you know what I mean? But I don't. I mean, it
mhm.
sucks. You know what I mean. I can
Well.
sympathize.
Mhm,
Coming from that background, but I think there should be, like you said, a different approach to this, a different
mhm.
way, and that's why I've taken it upon myself to educate myself, to learn, so that I can help,
Yeah.
my people, because they are my people.
Mhm.
That's it's in my blood. Doesn't mean I don't love them or I don't sympathize or I can't agree to disagree with you just because I now have a different view on it.
Yeah. Now I get what you're saying about that. Um, I'll circle back to the getting paid for it. Now you said you just saw like a Facebook post or something. Yeah. Which a lot of people would go, ah, it's a Facebook post, blah blah blah.
Or
How true is that?
Craigslist or
Or
something like
yeah.
that.
Um, when I am looking for a new job and I'm looking at these job websites, I'm seeing um, positions like for climate activism marketing jobs and things like that. And I'm kind of reading between the lines and understanding these are PR firms or marketing firms for causes. So it is essentially, I'm sure that a lot of people that are applying for those positions or finding out what those positions are to go to these riots and either make speeches or make signage or slogans and stuff for these causes. There have been so many videos of a lot of people online that are speaking very well in front of buildings, put together, no nervousness, and it sounds very rehearsed. And if you look up who these people are, they have those positions at those companies, and it's like, oh, so you're a paid activist and stuff like that. As far as the people causing a ruckus, who's paying them and where's that money coming from and going to that you said should go towards other causes? Well, it's specifically going towards those causes because I believe, um, with the limited knowledge that I have, and I'm not going to claim to be an expert or anything, but a lot of powerful people, powerful countries either are doing this to make the US look bad or they have ulterior motives. They want this chaos to ensue. They want these things to happen for varying reasons. To either slow the process of immigration, of illegal immigrants being sent back or sent abroad and things like that, or to to enact some more like draconian laws or something like that so they can have more power, or they just want to see chaos. It can be a whole host of reasons, which brings us to the topic of immigration that we were talking about a little bit earlier and stuff, and how I had this idea where, like, I just feel like a lot of these illegal immigrants are pawns that they are being used as pawns. And I feel very sorry for them being used as pawns. But I do believe that rules are rules and laws are laws. And the way that they've been used as pawns would be likened to if I stole a candy bar, say 20 years ago. I was an adult, I take responsibility, but I stole the candy bar. And a cop sees me do it, but he lets me go and is like, it's cool. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to say anything. I know it was caught like on camera and stuff, and I know that you did it, but we're just, like whatever. We're not really going after the candy bar people right now, you know? And we're just looking for like bigger criminals and bigger theft or whatever. That's what we're saying, but we're not really looking at anyone doing anything at the moment. And then the chief of the cops changes 20 years later, and he's like, we're going after all these crimes that were committed in the past so we can prevent this from happening. And yeah, we're going from the guys that were stealing thousands and we're working our way down. And if you happen to be caught up and you're on camera in being seen stealing that candy bar, or you're around and we have this on you that you did steal this candy bar but nothing happened to you, and we're going after the big ones, but you're getting caught up and swept up. Unfortunately, this is their perspective at the moment. You're going to have to pay for what you did that seemed really small and insignificant, but you're going to have to pay as well. Yeah, I'm so guilty. I still did what I did, and I'm still wrong for doing that. I just didn't pay for that then. And because it's been so long, I got comfortable thinking I got away with it and I'm fine with that, but actually I didn't get away with it. And that's kind of my thoughts on like what's happening now, because since my lifetime, when people were told during Reagan's administration that they would get amnesty, the migrant workers that were coming here, and it was like, oh, it's okay, you can stay, you can build a life here, you'll get amnesty. Okay, how do we become citizens though? I don't know, we'll work it out later. And then over the years, you can change the president and they might make a promise to illegals that they get this or that, but never fully resolving the issue and never fully saying, incentivizing people, come through the right way, we'll help you out. If you have a legit claim, we'll process it, but stop sneaking across, anything like that. No. They're made promise after promise after promise and lied to and used as a political football because no one wants to solve the issue, because just as many people on the right side of politics and on the left side of politics benefit from them being here. People benefit from the cheap labor that they can exploit. People benefit from being the poster and the goodwill, good nature, and trying to garner support and votes from them, or being shown as being humanitarian on one side. And other countries benefit because these people send money back, so they that props up their economy. So it's really only people caught in the middle that have nothing to gain from the illegal immigrant that are getting screwed. The young kids and the people coming from harsh backgrounds that can't get a low paying job to start their career, to learn a skill
Hmm.
and grow from there. Like, you go to, I call myself ghetto light. Like, I wasn't fully immersed in the ghetto, but I was around it enough to know, like, hey, like, a lot of these kids around here could benefit from starting a gardening company, could benefit from going and working in a field and learning how to farm and then working their way up. Or, okay, this is how things work on this farm. Well, maybe I can go to school and learn how to create a technology that's going to work better. But people don't want to say that or admit that. Like, they're like, no, no American wants to do this job. Well, my uncle had a gardening business when he was like 20. So he's black. And he obviously wanted to do a job like that when he was young. And it was his business. He started it. He benefited from it. I think he took the money to buy himself a truck and do that. Sadder ending with him because a whole lot of other stuff got in the way. But still, he started from something small like that and worked his way up. So don't tell me that Americans don't want to do those jobs. My mom worked in the fields with a bunch of immigrants so she could have enough money to go to school because she was trying to stay in Catholic school and needed money. And this was a great way to do something over the summer where you get a lot of hours and you can do it, you can build up, and it's not a permanent thing that you have to worry about, a permanent job. It's just a stepping stone. So, yeah, don't tell me that Americans don't want to do that. That's very demeaning and mean. And you're forcing people to live in shadows, uh, fear for their safety every time they walk out the house, not want to go to the hospital, not want to get law enforcement involved, not can't go back home to visit family, and they're told, "Oh no, bring your culture here. It's okay. You don't have to change a thing." Excuse me. If I went down to Mexico and wanted to make it a little America, you don't think local people would get upset? Like, yeah, no, they have their way of doing things. I can't impose my way of life on them when I'm there. Same thing here. It's like we have an agreement and a system of how things work.
I mean, to be honest, Mexico or Mexicans don't like Americans.
Yeah.
I mean, my own mom went to Mexico, I believe, last year,
Hmm.
and the Mexican authorities held her luggage hostage and then she paid them. And they told her to go back to America because she had an American passport. And she's like, I'm born in Mexico. And they gave her such a
Hmm.
hard time,
Wow.
harassing her. They ransacked her luggages. She had to pay to get them back. And she's from Mexico.
Wow.
So I'm just like, if I go to Mexico and say
Hmm.
I'm Mexican, they're gonna be like, "Where are you from?"
Hmm.
Well, I'm from California. I'm not Mexican.
Hmm.
They're gonna say you're American,
Yeah.
and that's just the truth.
Hmm.
I mean, is there Mexicans here in America that became U.S. citizens? Yeah, there is. I know some of them.
Hmm.
Back to what you were saying though about the cheap labor laws. I personally know someone who's an immigrant working in construction who I saw day and night bust himself working for an American that was paying him not what he deserved.
Hmm.
And last year, towards the end of the year, he didn't even pay him the last month's wages.
Yeah.
And what can he do about it? Nothing. He talked to a lawyer, I believe, but he can't do nothing about it.
Yeah.
And he got away with it. And he owed this person like 10 grand.
Wow.
And so I'm like, I can see why, like, if he was
Yeah.
a U.S. citizen, like he would be getting paid what he deserves,
Hmm.
because I think he deserves to get paid more than what he's actually was getting paid.
Hmm.
And so I just know like a lot of personal stories and backgrounds, and you're right, they are instilling fear into people.
Yeah.
Like people don't want to go out;
Yeah.
they're afraid to go out. And I'm like, I think that's the whole point. They're trying to install fear. I think the
Yeah.
agenda is deeper than what we think it is. And,
Hmm.
I wanted, as you were talking, I was like, I got comebacks for you for days.
Yeah.
But
Oh
one of
yeah.
them was,
Yeah.
I don't like the term either.
Hmm.
Like, no one's aliens, no one's immigrants, we're humans. And I mean, I can agree with that too. Like, I don't
Oh,
think there should be,
tell that to the Japanese.
or South Korea.
Tell that no. What I'm saying is, no one realizes this that Americans are the only ones with that mentality. Go to any other country, don't get papers, try and live there. And I'm not talking about like a very rich country. I'm talking about just go somewhere without papers and don't have a lot of money and go there without papers. See how that works out.
Well, I wanted to move to Bali because it
Mhm.
was very cheap to live out there. I'm like, I would see the videos. I'm like, well, $700 gets me all this. I'm
Mhm.
like, sign me up. I want to go. So I looked into
Mhm.
going to Bali to move. I could not work there.
Yep.
I have to become a resident of Bali. Like it was just so much that I had to do just
Mhm.
to be able to even live there.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, so these videos don't show you that. They just show you the villa, the pedals on the pool. the floating breakfast,
Hmm.
but it doesn't show you like, oh, I would have to do so much just to go.
Yeah, you can't just walk up to a country and go, well, no one's an alien, right? So let me just stay here with you. No, they're going to go, excuse me? Now, Indonesia's not quite a super poor country, but it's not exactly, it doesn't have the income like America. But even they are like, no, girl, you can't just come here and think you gonna live.
I don't even think I can go to Mexico and do that.
No, you can't. They'll send you back and they won't pay for your plane ticket. They'll just be like,
They'll
no,
actually charge you.
yes, they won't charge you. Yeah, exactly. So many of these countries, you can't just walk in and go, well, like, I'm just going to work. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to work really hard and stay quiet. So I get to stay, right? No, that's not how it works. There's a process, there's
Hmm.
paperwork. That's because they don't want you to come in and mooch off the good things that they have going there for their citizens.
Like another comeback I have that I've seen out there
Yeah.
is I just lost it.